I also want to really thank everybody for coming. We really do appreciate it. And I also really want to thank my wife, Debbie. She is the greatest event planner. And she's also, as many of you know, she's very philanthropic in that she puts on a gala for the Salvation Army. It raises about 400 to 500,000 a year. So she's well up into the couple mil that she's raised for the Salvation Army. And uh, thank you very much, my dear. You did an excellent job.
All right, so the first question is, you wrote a comparative history book, Lessons from Fallen Civilizations, which is about the fall of 5 great civilizations and what that means to us. Why did you decide on a fiction book this time?
Well, the author, Amy Tan, has said that in writing fiction, you can be more powerfully truthful than in any other medium, any other artistic medium. Um, and the way that I think that you can understand how that works is that and if you're reading something that is really compelling to you, that's believable, you have what we called, when I was a literature major, you're observing the universals, the universal human condition. And what it causes you to do, it's essentially, it causes your brain to play a trick on you. Where, for example, I think the greatest movie ever made is Godfather 1. And of course, it was a novel by Mario Puzo. But you'll notice, I notice at least, the suspension of disbelief goes on and on and on. You know you're watching Al Pacino, James Caan, and Marlon Brando, but yet you also believe that what you're watching is real. So that's what Amy Tan is saying. That's what fiction allows you to do in a way that's unique. And I would say fiction and film together.
And you do a pretty good Brando, as I recall. Is that right?
This is a literary discussion, Austin.
My bad.
Would you like to hear just a little? Just
You guys want to hear some Brando?
little. Okay. Oh well. Okay, you can just. As you know, at in the beginning of the film, the Sicilian tradition is that the Don has to give a favor. Anybody that asks a favor on the day of his daughter's wedding, he has to comply with the favor. So he's got the undertaker there whose daughter was beaten, and he said to the judge, gave him a suspended sentence, and the Don is troubled, and he's wants to be out with the wedding, and he's listening to this, and he says, Martino, what would you have me do? And Martino walks up and he whispers in his ear. And then the Don says, Martino, let's be frank. You never wanted to be my friend. You never invited me to your home. Instead, you come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding. And he asked me to commit a marriage for money. Does that sound like the Don?
Let's give it up for Brando, everybody. All right, so describe the process of writing historical fiction. Do you have a formula?
When I was doing research for my first book, Lessons from Fallen Civilization, I came across a book. I ordered a book and got it in. It's called White Gold. It was written by a British fellow, Giles Milton, and it was about a kid who's, if you can believe this kid, his entire village, he lived on 100 years before my story, but he lived on the south coast of England, Cornwall, they call it. His entire village, Muslim pirates pulled up and they came ashore on shore boats and they captured the entire village and put them into slavery in Morocco. And the way that Miles was able to find out about this kid is that the kid wrote letters. The slave owners down in the Barbary Coast allowed you to write letters home, even though you're a slave. Reason being, so that you could be ransomed if money could be raised. So this fellow, this Britisher, did a beautiful job, and he found this life story in letters to a church in that area. So I used it. I used his life story as a template, and so that is what I think a lot of playwrights are doing. In fact, I read once that Shakespeare even found lesser plays and then turned them into plays, using them as a template. The other thing is, what you do is your formula is you come up with a fictitious character, but you insert him into real events. So you're studying the real events, and as well as meeting real people. The subtitle to the book is The Odyssey of Winston Prescott Jones. Well, my character's father fought in the Revolution, comes back from the Revolution, marries into a wealthy Prescott family, very well-to-do family, and hence the name Winston Prescott Jones. And the odd thing is, I have a very weird historic quirk in that a distant relative of my narrator's uncle. My narrator's uncle is Samuel Prescott, and a distant relative is here. His name is John Prescott. John, would you say hello?
There he is. Give it up for John, everybody.
Yeah. This is John. John Prescott.
So tell us about your narrator. What does he symbolize?
The way I might answer that is this. It's my favorite Reagan quote. Well, my fellow Americans, we have a rendezvous with destiny. It is up to us to leave to our children this, the last best hope for mankind, or we relegate them to a world of darkness that'll last 1,000 years. I just got Reagan yesterday. I don't know why. I don't know if it was too close, but the narrator represents, I guess you'd call it my brand, and that is freedom is always under siege. And as Reagan also said, we do not inherit freedom in our bloodstream. Every generation is forced to fight to preserve it.
I'm intrigued by your character, Padre Luke. Tell us how you decided to bring him into the story.
Padre Luke is his character was developed from my very best professor, the professor I considered my best professor in college. He was a Jesuit priest. When I was at Santa Clara, you were required to take theology, one theology class a year, in fact. I took two. And this particular professor was teaching the New Testament. He would come in, and when he would begin his lecture, he would start by describing. Usually the lecture was about a parable, one of Jesus' parables, and he would start by describing what Israel looks like now. Then he would drill back, and he would tell us what Israel looked like in this area around Galilee, where Jesus was essentially traveling around with his disciples. And then he would describe what was going on. What were the conversations between Jesus and some of the disciples? What was going on in their minds? And then he would tell us the parable. This he would do for an entire 50-minute class with no notes. And to me, it was, he was just almost a transcendent person. And that's who this character is. He also represents perhaps the most important words written in human governance, and that is we consider these truths self-evident. We are born equal. We are born endowed with inalienable rights, which include those pursuit of happiness and freedom. Sorry, I botched that one. So he represents again the struggle to retain freedom.
Now, the cover describes your book as a Homeric tale. Explain what that is.
Well, Homer, as you know, wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey. It's considered the first piece of literature written down in Western civilization. It was written in an alphabet. The Greeks invented everything, but they didn't invent the alphabet. The alphabet was actually invented by the Phoenicians, hence our word phonics. And so the Iliad and the Odyssey is written in ancient Greek, but it was a tale that was told part of what was then the oral tradition before that. Who knows how long that story had been passed along from generation to generation. So it is a very primal story. I didn't even realize I had written a Homeric tale until my publisher was asking me to compose something for the back cover. And it dawned on me that this is also one of the most primal, probably the most primal story of the return home.
All good stuff. That's all we had. So we might want to turn it back to the audience and ask if anybody has any questions about the book, if anybody has any questions they would like to ask.
I have one thing, also one apology to issue, and that is, I'm sorry, some people got terrible messages from, we got sold out, and then some people got messages that their book would be delivered in May and so forth. That's been altered. I think most books are starting to arrive again, so I wanted to apologize for that. If anybody had a question about it, in fact, could I ask how many people have ordered the book and received the book? Okay, nice. Great. And how many have ordered books and they're not there? Yeah. Okay. All right. For those that have not received them yet, my understanding is the first message that you got is telling you that it's going to be 6 months. That's not going to hold up. It should be coming shortly, and I do apologize for the lousy messaging. Go to Toby. It's Toby.
Oh, there you go.
Tell us about who did the illustrations.
The illustrations are done by the publisher, and one thing I again have to compliment my wife on. When you get your book, the illustration will be in black and white, and Debbie colorized these for tonight because she's so good at what she does. Yeah, but the publisher just when you get your book, there's 24 chapters. In the beginning of each chapter, we'll have an illustration, but it will be in black and white. But these are the illustrations.
I got all. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Tom.
Hi.
I was
Toby.
wondering, since it took 5 years to write, how you disciplined yourself over that period. Did you wake up before sunrise and start writing, or did you write late at night, or did you write?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Did you write consistently over the years, or how did you discipline yourself to create this?
Okay, how long did it take, and how did I discipline myself to yes, okay. About 4 years. I'm not prolific. I'm very unprolific. And so What happens though, what's really interesting is the story begins to take hold of you in a way that where you don't even know what the characters are going to do. Does anybody remember the movie The French Lieutenant's Woman? It was made a long time ago when Jeremy Irons and Meryl Streep were young. I think it was in the 80s. And in the movie, or I'm sorry, in the book, it was written by a guy named John Fowles. In the book, at the end of each chapter, instead of there being an illustration, the author says to you, the reader, you know, I was kind of surprised that the lieutenant said that, and he was gone for a week, and I don't understand why the woman's. In other words, he's commenting on the characters doing what he didn't expect or wasn't aware of. Well, that happens when you are writing a novel like this because the characters you put them in a situation and if you've defined them, they begin to act on their own. Therefore, you got to get up. It's like getting up with a baby. You got to get up and get it down and write it down. So, to answer your question, Toby, that's part of why it doesn't take that much discipline because it actually is working. It's working within you, and it's something you gotta keep on top of. Thanks for the question, Mr. DeRoche.
My question, Larry, is that you're very strong in your beliefs for freedom and democracy, and your character runs into a non-democratic, non-free world of Islam. And you make an accommodation of sorts, and that probably was difficult, and I'm interested in your experience personal as you accommodate or culturally accommodate and look at this interplay between cultures, including your hero and his lady.
Yeah, one of the inspirations in the book was John McCain. John McCain, as you know, was captured in Vietnam and under torture, essentially switched sides, accommodated, made probably gave secrets, things like that, under torture. But he was still considered a hero when he was returned. And in this story, that happens to the narrator. He is under torture, becomes a Muslim. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for coming. Oh, we got one more. Sorry, one more. Ann.
In the not final version that we read online, and I have not read the whole thing, the name changes. So why?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I just wondering what your thought.
I sent you the version without the name change.
But I'm just wondering what your thought process was.
Why did it go from Tyler to Winston? I just feel I just felt that it was the name I wanted instead. That's all. There wasn't any real reason other than that.
He didn't tell you, I want my name changed?
Yeah, I take that back. You're right, Ann. And so part of this, what I'm just telling you, right? They characters do take on their own lives. Joyce. That is a great question. Austin Kelley. All right. Okay.
One thing. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is my son, Austin Kelley, who forgot to introduce himself. Our son flew up from LA, and then there are copies of Larry's first book on the table when you come in. If you don't already have it, please take a copy. Little party favor. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and everybody have a wonderful time.